So I might have overscoped last week's video a little bit. So this week I plan on doing something quick and simple, so I can give myself time to relax and rejuvenate. So this week, I'm going to be creating 2 art packs. That people will be able to use for free in whatever kind of project they're trying to work on. Be that a game jam, a hobby project, or something commercial. But before we get into the video, my name is Helper Wesley. I've made these games, and I make weekly devlogs. So I won't be making these art packs from scratch. What I'll be doing is using the art that I made previously in some other videos that I wasn't planning on putting in any of my games. So I'm going to turn those fragmented pieces of art into complete art packs and then releasing those under some kind of license that says you can use my stuff, but I'll just figure that part out later. So I started out by going to my favorite pixel artist, Adam C. Eunice. They're amazing. Their pixel art is just so good. And I generally don't follow tutorials and things, but if I'm going to be releasing this for people to actually use, I wanted to make sure that it was right. So I got about halfway through on 2x speed when... Squirrel. And so I started with the grassy, rocky tile set that I made previously and stretched it out like a border so that I could put all the art into the tile set. Not because I've seen that done anywhere else, and not because I thought it was a good idea, just because... Anyhow, I drew out the corner piece and it's kind of like pointing up a little bit. It's a little bit strange. So I wanted to draw an alternative version of that with like the moss coming down through the stone, like following the path in between the rocks, and having it so that the grass kind of, or the moss, or whatever you want to call it at this point, kind of comes down over the rocks. And I didn't like it. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't like the way that came out. The idea in my head seemed like it would work, but my head lies to me all the time, so can't trust it. I then drew out the inverted bottom corners of the piece and made a bottom section that didn't have the vines coming down from it, because I'm sure somebody at some point is going to want to not have those there. And by default, my brain just went into, if you're making a platformer game, you want to have ways to get around. So I made a bridge and a ladder. So I shared what I had done with the Discord, and somebody piped up and said that the bridge and the corner piece should have a merging tile so that it doesn't look like they're trying to force them together. And so I drew this. I don't really like the way that it came out, but it does make it so that the tile set already has that in it, and that way the person who's going to use the tile set doesn't have to like mesh those two things together to get them to work. And then I set out to make some like decorations and plants and stuff like that to kind of like fill up the world. And I quickly remembered that I am not an artist. And I know I've made like 3 art videos now, but I'm really not. I've only been doing pixel art for about a year now. And it's when I run into things like this that I realize that I have a long way to go. It's almost like art is its own separate craft, and people dedicate their entire lives to learning how to do it. But it's moments like this when I realize that I'm not there yet, because I can visualize it in my head, and I kinda got close to what I wanted it to be, but I just couldn't. And that is really frustrating. Ugh. I mean, I literally gave up on plants and just tried to make grass, and I couldn't even do that. So I got up for a second, walked away, had a glass of water, came back, sat down, went back at it. When I sat back down, I had looked at the Discord and some people had responded and suggested a couple things, like a trampoline, a button or lever, and then some kind of obstacle that they could be hurt by. And since everything in this art pack was kind of natural, I decided to make the obstacle thorns, so like a thorn bush. I ended up making a couple of varieties of this, and then people in the Discord were suggesting different thorn types and shades and things like that. But then, Ben Brooks, one of the moderators for our Discord, suggested I make Christmas lights out of it because all the colors and things. And before I realized what I was doing, this was made. People were suggesting things like doors and boxes and things they could push around. And I gotta say, I was having a lot of fun with this, but this all did take a lot of time. And so I switched over to the other art pack that I was going to make, which was the Ice Cave one, the one that I made that lovely snowman for. And like with the first art pack, I started out by making all of the traversal things that you would need. So I made a bridge and a rope. I went through and made a lot of the same stuff, but in this new color palette. So like I made a drill door that goes up and down. I made pipes and decorations. And for this one specifically, in my head, I had the idea that you'd have dark areas and light areas, and areas of warmth and areas of coolness. And so I made these like on and off light/torch points. I don't know how anybody would use them properly, but I kind of pictured them as like something you throw at a wall, and then when it hits the wall, the light comes on, and you have like a light source or a heat source from that spot. I don't know. Hopefully somebody makes use of it somehow. I then went through for both of them and made more things that could hurt you. Because I don't know what kind of games people are going to be making with these art packs, you know, I can kind of guess, but like I don't know exactly what they're going to make. I wanted to just give them options. And so for the grassy rocky one, I made this like mechanism in the wall that shoots arrows, and the arrow has like an animation where when it hits, it buckles and then breaks. And then for the ice one, I made an icicle that falls from the ceiling, and a snowball that comes from the side that doesn't actually have a launcher or anything, but I'm recording this right now and I realized I never made a reason for that snowball to be firing in that direction. Oops. But when that snowball hits something, it kind of buckles in on itself and explodes. So hopefully those things will help people make more interesting levels. I was very happy with how these art packs were coming along, but then I realized they didn't have backgrounds. In my mock-up artwork, I would just post them up with these like... Hold on. Somebody on Twitter commented on how nice the backgrounds were for the things that I was putting up. And when I'm doing art and need a temporary background, I'll typically just take colors from that art pack and then throw it up in like lines and then blur them out. So it looks like something is there, but just out of focus. And so after trying a bunch of different things, like honestly, I probably spent more time trying to make backgrounds that I just kept throwing out than I actually spent making the art for the art pack. And thank you to everybody in the Discord. You all tried your best. I'm just thick-headed, okay? I wasn't able to deliver on what they were trying to tell me how to do. So what I eventually settled on doing is to give both art packs pixelated and blurred out backgrounds. And then when it comes to somebody using the art pack, they can pick what they want to use. That was basically me just throwing my hands up and being like, I give up. But anyway, despite this week being more trying than I thought it was going to be, I did end up with 2 art packs that I could confidently give to somebody else and then let them use it for their games. So, success, I guess. All that was left to do was to mock up some mock levels for the store page. And the grassy rocky one looks like this. I think the best thing about it is the tree still. I gave the wooden objects kind of less detail than they probably should have had, but since all of the wooden objects in that art pack all have the same kind of look, I think it sort of still works, kind of. And then the Ice Cave art pack looks like this. I did cheat a little bit by using some effects in Aseprite to get a certain look, but it's nothing you couldn't do in engine. I mean, I could do it in GDevelop, so I assume you could do it in just about every other engine. My favorite thing about this art pack is probably the snowman, and the drills actually came out pretty good. When I put that drill down in the snowbank, I realized that it was kind of something special. And if I ever were to go back to this art pack again to use, I would probably use that drill to make a boss of some kind. I do like how this one has an inner and an outer background, because it kind of gives you the ability to go in and out of places for whatever kind of game you're trying to make. Now all that's left is to try to figure out what kind of license I'm going to use. If you enjoyed this video, maybe click on that subscribe button, And if you wanted to talk to me personally, the link to our Discord is down below. It's called the Game Dev Fireside, and it's a pretty chill place to hang out and talk game dev. And if you decide to click on that link, then I'll see you there.